Council, Tuesday, January 24th. Please stand for our invocation led by Pastor Bobby Lassiter, Christ United Methodist Church, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Would you bow your heads? O gracious Almighty God, we thank you for this space that you have set apart. We ask for your Holy Spirit to come and make its presence known, to fill every inch and every corner of this room, of these hearts, bodies, and souls. Lord, we thank you for the ability to do your will, to seek it out, and to listen to your Holy Spirit and those tiny little whispers that you have granted each and every one of us. We pray for the leaders that are in front of us. We pray for the community that sits within these seats. And we pray that no matter what is spoken, that your ears are pleased and your will be done. We give all this over to you. In your name of your mighty Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Roll call. President Small.
Here.
Vice President Gregory.
Here.
Councilmember Penn.
Here.
Councilmember Carroll.
Here.
Councilmember Reynolds.
Here.
Councilmember Daves.
Here.
Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Statement of rules.
And good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Yeah, we welcome you to our Tuesday, January 24th, 2023 meeting. At this meeting, we do have rules. At this time, I ask if anyone has any type of electronic device, including a cell phone, please put on the off or the vibrator position, the off or the vibrator position at this time, please. Any person desiring to address the council must sign in indicating the resolution, the ordinance, appeal, or public hearing agenda item before entering the meeting. When addressing the council, the speaker must state his or her name and address. Any person that desiring to speak to the council on a non-agenda item must sign in to the city clerk office no later than 2:00 p.m. the Thursday prior to the council meeting. The subject that he or she wishes to address to the council must be identified and pertain to the city of Mobile business. And a person who has not given proper notice to the city clerk office and wishes to address the council will not be allowed to do so. Each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to address the council. A bell will sound to indicate the end of 2 minutes, and the second bell indicates the time has expired. When addressing the council, there is to be no personal address to any individual council members. All statements are to be made to the chair, who will recognize any council member who wishes to respond. To maintain decorum, there will be no undue applause and no public outcry allowed. Madam City Clerk.
Communications from the mayor.
Good morning. It's good to see everyone here. Appreciate you being here. Several announcements this morning. I'd like to bring focus to the community cleanup that we had during MLK Day, community service. I want to thank Mobile United along with the City of Mobile staff who managed to pick up 1,600 pounds of trash, 48 pounds of recyclables, and 5,700 pounds of debris during that cleanup. I appreciate everybody participating in that. Also like to bring your attention to what we call C251. C251 is a department, well, it's a program that we have where citizens can come learn about the City of Mobile. It's C251, actually Citizens Academy. This will be the third cohort. There are available spaces for 30 people to join. It's an opportunity for Mobians to learn more about our city government and the various departments and how they work. Specifically, we focus on legal and external affairs, administrative services, finance, public works, and public safety departments. We're taking applications. They opened yesterday, and we'll be taking them all the way through this Friday. They opened yesterday and be taking them through this Friday. I think you can go to the city website and apply for being a part of this next cohort. The next thing I would like to bring your attention to is an exhibit that's going to be at the History Museum. It's called Dressing the Abbey. And what that is the costumes that were worn during the filming of the hit show Downton Abbey. It opens this Saturday, January 28th, and will run through Saturday, April 22nd. The History Museum is sponsoring multiple events having to do with the history of Downton Abbey. And anyway, I think that for those who are interested in the fashion and the design of that, they'll have a great time seeing what the 1920s era, how we all dressed, or how maybe some of y'all, maybe, nope, I don't think anybody's here in the 20s, how we dressed in the 20s back at that time. Anyway, I hope you'll take an opportunity to participate in those opportunities. Thank you all very much for being here.
Thank you.
Adoption of the agenda.
Second.
And properly moved in second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Agenda's adopted.
Appeals, we have requests for waive the noise ordinance on April the 9th in Denton Park and April 29th in Medal of Honor Park.
Second. And properly moved in second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Appeal passes.
Public hearings. Today is the public hearing to rezone property located at 1710 Dolphin Island Parkway, 2005 and 2009 Douglas Lane, and 2008 Faye Street from R1 and B2 to B2.
This open up the public hearing for the said properties. Anyone present that would like to address the council, you may do so at this time by coming down to the podium and stating your name and your address. Again, this open up the public hearing for these said properties. If not, the public hearings are closed.
Public hearing to rezone property located at 6712 Old Dobbin Drive North from R1, R2, and B1 to R1.
This open up the public hearing for the said properties. If anyone present that would like to address the council, you may do so by coming down to the podium and stating your name and your address. If not, this public hearing is closed.
Today is a public hearing to declare the structures at 2658 Reeves Street, 1521 Plover Street, 1071 Arlington Street, 2011 Height Street, 3201 Lees Lane, 7127 13th Street, public nuisances and ordering them demolished.
This open up the public hearing for these said properties. Anyone present that would like to address the council may come down to the podium by stating your name and your address, please.
David Helen, Paget Switch Road, Irvington, Alabama. This is about the Lees Lane
Your
property.
home address number, please.
11594.
Thank you.
This is about the property at Lees Lane, structure there. We'd purchased this through the tax sale, and then we get the deed on it in 4 months. I spoke with Miss Davis about going over there and cleaning the trash, cutting the grass, stuff like that, putting a new tarp on the roof. This is one of the new properties that's in the new statute for the tax lien. So we don't have a tax certificate on it to be able to go pull a permit and do repairs yet. So I'd like to ask the council right now for a little bit more time for us to get the deed so we can pull a permit and actually do the proper repairs like the roof and this sort of thing. We actually renovated 3 homes that were probably in worse shape than this in the 36605 area code last year. So we do move forward with these and get these done. But if y'all go demolish the house, we lose our investment that we have invested in the tax liens at this time on this property.
Mr. Reynolds, would you?
I'd like to hear from Mr. Dolphinby. His request is longer than the typical 90 days that's allowed for holdover, if that's okay for the administration.
David Dockenbaugh, Deputy Director, Municipal Enforcement. Just want to follow up that, yeah, this house is being processed for the demolition. We do have some problems with the roof and the exterior walls. However, you're exactly right. The time frame, we have a limited time frame. When we send out the notice, which you may have received as the tax lien holder, we have a 120 days, council does, to take an action. Otherwise, it's permanently tabled, and I would have to come back before council with another notification process and public hearing. However, we do have the option of tabling this for 60 days, and still be within that 120 days. And that way you can come back and give us an update on your attempt to get clear title.
We won't be able to, it's our time is, I think it's in May is when we would get a chance to get clear title on the property.
And then also to follow up, if the council does at that time, and within 60 days from today, decide to declare this a public nuisance, we still have 2 to 3 months after the fact. We can hold off moving forward and wait for him the next 2 months. But that way we don't have to re-advertise, come back here for another public hearing, declare the structure public nuisance, and we'll just step back and let him for 2 more months go through the process and get the clear title to get a building permit.
Okay, and I would ask, as a lien holder, a tax lien holder, are you entitled to anything on the property? Can you go clean up the property? Can you put a tarp on the roof? Are you entitled to any of that?
Not under the new statute.
Yeah.
I can't get reimbursed for that, no, sir. I will not get any reimbursement, but I am willing to do it, even though I would not be reimbursed for it or risk losing my investment in that time.
Mr. President,
Yes.
he's actually right. The unintended consequences of the new law actually does not give him right of entry. And so he doesn't have site control. We are working with legislators, Jamie Roberts, and I'll get with Jamie Roberts on how to remedy this situation so he can get a tax certificate. And it's not just him, it's impacting the entire state. So we need to get with state legislators and correct this tax lien issue and the right of entry. So any assistance that we can provide him, because this is absolutely not his fault. It's a glitch within the law itself that we need to correct in Montgomery.
Okay, but the property still sits there, obviously in poor condition. So I think we ought to follow Mr. Doffenbaugh's lead, hold this over for 60 days, allow them to reevaluate, and then hopefully you'll receive your, a warranty deed at that point.
It's going to take at least, like I said, at least probably 4 to 5 months before I get a deed. So probably 120 days probably isn't going to be quite enough time to get that and get everything there.
Mr. Doffenbaugh, can I understand what you said again? Because I thought maybe I misunderstood that if we hold this for 60 days, you still have another 120 days up to, or just 120 days total?
The total time is 120 days.
Okay.
So 60-day holdover is going to put us right at that mark.
Okay.
Council will have to make a decision one way or another. But again, you still have the option to declare it a public nuisance today.
Yeah.
And then we move forward and we just work with the gentleman if he can get clear title. But I don't know if that's going to happen because my staff has indicated that the property owner may not be willing to let that go. So there could be a long legal battle. So we don't know for sure if he's going to get clear title. But I hope he does because we do want to renovate the house.
Okay, I think the citizens probably would benefit the most from putting a maximum amount of pressure on you to get the job done, to at least clean it up and get it tarped and secure it, while still preserving its rights. Preserving your rights to make repairs later. So I think what we ought to do is table this for 60 days, and then y'all reevaluate, continue to work with the administration, and then they can come back to us. And if they have to re-advertise, then they sometimes have to re-advertise. We want you to make the improvements to the property. I understand you have to overcome the deed. So hold this over for 60 days or table it for 60 days is what I suggest.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is anyone else present that would like to address the council on these said properties? Not, this public hearing is closed.
Presentation of petitions and other communications to the council. Derek Payne.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Derek Payne. I have a little business called Derek Payne's Bama Training, and it is I train kids, all different ages, sports and conditioning, as well as adults.
Mr. Payne, can you just your full name and your address, please?
My address is my name is Derek Payne. My address is 6805 Autumn Ridge Drive, Mobile, 36695. And currently, I have the permit to Heroes Park that's located off Old Military Road in District 4, Theodore. I've had that permit for approximately since November, and I've been trying to conduct camps and do things to revitalize that park over there, because it's indeed a park of heroes, and that's where I grew up at as a kid. It has always been a little playground, but we used it for shortcuts and different things of that nature, and it had all the plum trees and different pecan trees, and it was a lot of fun. But now I'm there trying to bring the community back together and bring the community alive again, and with activities and kids. But I'm unable to do it on the current conditions of the fields. The fields are in such bad conditions that in order to get kids out there would put them in danger. And I didn't want to do that. So I'm here today requesting for assistance of some type of nature. I see all around the park, around the city, where the city of Mobile has invested in beautiful parks and have updated the parks to the point where they're active every weekend. And my family is surrounded by Heroes Park. My parents still live there, my uncles and aunts, and everybody surrounds the park. It's a beautiful little park if you've never been there. And currently, I have the permit until June of 2023. And I'm trying to do some things there, but I need some assistance. And it's just not for me and for my business, but it's to bring the community together and have a sense of pride again in that neighborhood, because it is indeed a neighborhood of heroes, past and present. And we appreciate the fact that the city of Mobile did dedicate that park to one of our fallen heroes, and a person that it was a mentor to a lot of us. But I came back home in 2005 because I've been on a journey from college, and I came back home in 2005 from when I left in 1977 to come back to do this. And I've helped kids all over the country from, you may know a few that play in Sunday. Jason Kelsey for the Philadelphia Eagles, Travis Kelsey for Kansas City Chiefs, coached those kids. And when I came back home, I coached a lot of kids that are successful now, DJ Fluker and a lot of other kids. I've been all over Mobile, but I just retired as a resource officer for the Mobile County Public School System, and I want to do good by the community with which I grew up.
Yeah, thank you so much. We'll hear from the council representative for that area.
Thank you for your participation in the community. It's important that we have leaders like yourself that get involved. You didn't mention specific repairs to the park or improvements to the park. So if you and I could maybe speak to, so I can get a better understanding of what you're particularly after for Heroes Park. I know early on of me taking the office, we've got some drainage problems that exist in Theodore that are pretty significant. Then we've got some road problems that are pretty significant in Theodore. And if there's some small incremental improvements that we can start on the park while not interrupting the major redoing of streets and drainage over there, I'm all ears. I'm in full support of you and what you're trying to do. So if you and I could get together and talk about specifically what you're after, I think it would be helpful.
Thank you, sir. I
Yes,
appreciate
sir.
it.
Thank you.
Christopher Edwards.
Good morning, Council.
Good morning.
Before I get started, I'm not here to bash the police. I'm not here to bash the city council, but I do have a concern.
Just give us your full name and your address, sir.
Christopher Edwards, 2708 Warsaw Avenue. On last week, we had a police pursuit that resulted in a young man losing his life, and my sister having severe property damage to her home. I understand, but just let me give you 3 words. policies and procedures, and professionalism. I understand the policy with police chasing. I know police have to do their job. I understand community policing. But one thing, over in District 1, the police, they're too aggressive. I don't know if it's the SWAT team, but I can tell the difference. It's a different type of policing in District 1. It's too aggressive. I understand we have things going on. I grew up in Trinity Gardens, Thomasville area. I know that. But the policing that's going on now is too aggressive. And as a result of aggressive policing, this is what we have: a tour house and a man lost his life over speed. I haven't heard anything else about if he had anything in the car, or if he committed a felony, or if he had anything in the car, if he committed a felony, or none of that. It was just speeding. This is the second one. This is the second body in 2 months. Mardi Gras is coming up. So you mean to tell me next month we're going to have another one during Mardi Gras? That's going to look bad on the city. Again, I understand the policies and the procedures, but when I read the policies and procedures and I get the accident report, something is not adding up. And it's not up to snuff. I'm not here to call anyone out. If we can talk in private, that'll be great. And I love my sister. My sister's sitting back there. But she has her house and I have mine. And when this happened, no one from the city came in and said, hey, look, I'll put you up in a hotel until we get everything situated. And if you got a number, you had to call 5 different people in order to talk to someone. And by the time you talk to that person didn't even want to answer the phone. And the professionalism on the police, I've never seen anything like it. One, wearing black ski masks after the situation happened, that's unacceptable. I actually said some things out there that I wasn't supposed to say as a leader and as an administrator, but I said it, and I apologize, Mr. Baptiste. Another thing is a police officer saying that's above my pay grade and I don't know, that's unacceptable. If you don't know, find someone that does know and inform us of what's going on. Just don't leave me in the dark. And finally, transparency. Just be transparent with the city. If it happened, it happened. And I understand controlling the narrative, and I understand all of that. But this happened, and it has to be addressed.
As our public safety director, if he can just respond on Mr. Edwards.
I don't have any direct response, and I will speak with Mr. Edwards offline. He and I have had communications prior to this meeting, and I'll continue to communicate with him on our policies and procedures and the incident itself.
So, Mr. Edwards, your main, let me just get a good understanding. Your main concern coming down this morning, and I understand you said not to, bash the council, the city, or the police department, but what is it to make sure that we understand exactly your main concern coming down this morning?
Decision making when it comes to police chasing. Mm-hmm. All right, we had someone to get killed last month. And just speaking with those people, no one said anything to them, everyone's hush hush. Now this month, another man died. And this man, for speeding, now if he had to kill someone else or committed a felony, I understand that, but going 80, 90 miles per hour down Stanton Road, that's unacceptable.
Okay. Any questions or comments from the council? Mr. Penn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, Mr. Williams, Mr. Edwards, thank you for coming down. It's always great to hear concerns from our constituents and our residents. I spoke with you. I asked you, and I'm sure, and I talked to Director Batiste as well, praying for you and your family. I did ask you for your contact so I can reach out to your sister and let her know. So I'm glad to see her here today, and definitely praying for District 1 regarding policies and procedures from a council standpoint. It's certain things that we don't control. I think that's a lot of times people don't understand. We're the legislative branch, the executive branch. I can't tell Director Batiste to do anything. I can't tell the police officer to do anything, but I can be an advocate. And that's why I asked you to reach out. I get that contact information so I can hear and know what's going on. This is my first time honestly, in this year, hearing that police officers in District 1 are aggressive. So with that, getting that information, hearing it from you, now we can start working towards it. We haven't had anyone come down from the council, and I haven't received any emails from anyone. So it's great to get that information, so now we can work and figure out what's the problem. And I think, too, we also got to be mindful of directing a whole organization for a couple of people who are part of that organization. I think we need to get direct information if those police officers have a badge number. So now we can be directly, we talk to Director Batiste or Chief Prime, so we know exactly, so we know who are those officers who were aggressive, instead of maybe saying the whole, the District 1 officers are aggressive. So I think that's important, so we can be directly and deal with those officers instead of saying the whole precinct have those challenges. But
Mr. Penn, is the whole precinct.
Okay.
Can't respond back.
Okay. So when you said the whole precinct, I'm just giving you, because I work in District 1, I live in District 1, my church is in District 1. I deal with police officers, and it's not the whole precinct, because these officers are doing an amazing job that have come and helped me, and I call. So it's not the whole precinct. Now, I'm not saying what you have dealt with is not true, but that's why we need those officers' badge numbers or any names. So, but we can't just say the whole precinct as a whole is this one direction. That's a dangerous statement to say anything as a whole. It is everybody a part of it is doing the same thing. I think that's a dangerous statement. That's just my opinion. But like I said, what you experience could be very true. That's why we have to, I'm willing to sit down and talk and get that information and be that advocate where I can talk to Director Batiste, Chief Prime, Captain Prime, all these different people who we're working with to make sure that they're doing what they can. Recently, Monday, Captain Prime had a community walk in Trenton Garden. So Captain Prime, she went this past week, walked in the community, introducing herself, trying to learn more about the community. So the point what I'm saying is we can't just put it on the whole department instead of not saying who are directly dealing those situations that you're mentioning. But I'm here to listen and take that information and work with our executive branch to figure out what we can do to make our city better, because we all can get better. I agree with you. We all can get better. But I just want to be mindful of saying the whole department is doing it. But Director Batiste, I'm willing to get with you, if y'all talked, and so we can all, so I know what's going on as well, that information you sharing with them.
And other council members?
Just
Mr. Carroll.
one question. I agree with Councilman Penn, but is it appropriate to ask at what speed or at what point or how high-speed chases are handled or disengaged?
So again, our policy and procedures are on the website. I'll get you a copy of them. Every pursuit has different dynamics to it. Speed is one of the dynamics for which a supervisor can terminate a pursuit. And so, one, I don't think this is appropriately the place to be discussing, when we should or shouldn't pursue. The policy is clear, and we follow the policy, and we evaluate the policy on a regular basis. Every time we have an incident like this, we go back and we review the policy to see if there are any changes that we need to make to the policy. The policy that we have currently have in place is a CALEA accredited policy, which only about 10% of all law enforcement agencies in these United States are CALEA accredited. So our policy is a best practice, best standard as it relates to pursuit policies. As it relates to Mr. Edwards, again, I've spoken with him at length over the phone. I've offered to him, because he's an advocate for his sister, to allow him to come and sit in my office and review the body cam to look at what actually took place, and that offer is still available to him at his convenience. And again, so we want to cooperate with Mr. Edwards, and I also asked Mr. Edwards from the very beginning that if there are some inconveniences that his sister is experienced as a result of slowfulness on insurance companies and being displaced, to get with me so that I could figure out what we can do from an administrative level to assist the family during this process.
Any question from the council?
Mr. President,
Mr. Jones.
about 2-3 months ago, there was an issue in my district where a felon kidnapped an individual, and it led to a high-speed chase. The gentleman, if I recall right, I call him a gentleman, wrecked his vehicle, and they were able to get the other person out of that situation safely. We've got to be very careful when we start talking about policies and procedures about speed chases. What I know for a fact is every one of these cases could have been prevented had the perpetrator stopped and not run from the police. None of these issues would have happened. I look at the blotter reports from the police send to us on a daily basis, and 9 times out of 10, those that are breaking the law and eluding police have some type of significant criminal activity attached to them. They're not just speeding. It's drugs, it's illegal weapons, it's got some type of equipment where they've been robbing residences, etc. 9 times out of 10, that's the case. When we sit here and we start debating when do we not want police to continue a chase, the police don't know what exactly happened until after they can detain that person, question that individual, do an investigation, and then figure out why that person was trying to evade the police. Could be a past warrant, could be anything. They don't know at the point in time they turn those lights on and go. Again, I think we've got to be very cautious when we start wanting to change policies because of the actions of those who willfully and egregiously break the law. That's what the police are there for. If they didn't break the law, why are they running? And if that's an issue where they don't trust the police, then there's where we've got to close that gap. And I know since I've been sitting in this seat for the last year, we've had a ton of programs and spent a ton of money, hired somebody specifically to continue to close that gap and work with connecting the police department with these communities, all communities. And we need to keep doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Dave.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think it's very difficult for us sitting up here to second guess the actions of the police. The police officers have to make split-second decisions with respect to a wide variety of incidences. And their primary objective is to protect the public. And I think that we need to be really careful, as Mr. Jones has said, about second-guessing the police except in really egregious circumstances. What I'm about to say is directed to the people who commit crimes or have committed crimes, and not to anybody else. If you resist arrest, it is going to end badly for you and perhaps some other people. The easiest thing to do is don't resist arrest. That's the easiest thing to do. Even if you're innocent, don't resist arrest. It'll all get straightened out at some point afterwards, but the time to get it straightened out is not when they're trying to arrest you. Thank
you. Mr. President.
We appreciate you coming down and everything. Thank you. Mr. Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe when Mr. Edwards did reach out to me, it wasn't just about the policy or procedures of the chase, but also as well as about like who is liable for the accident. I think that's what, also was more of his questions as well. So I'm sure Director Batiste, in those conversations will share that and get that information with him regarding that process. And I think a lot of citizens just don't know. And I think it's great that they're coming down to ask the questions. I think it's great that we can have those conversations and meet. So again, Mr. Elwood, thank you for coming down. If you anything that I could do, any questions that you might have, and I would love to be in those meetings so we can figure out what we can do to make our city better and our community better and educate our citizens as well so they understand the policies and procedures. Thank you, Mr. President.
Madam Clerk.
Reggie Hill.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. And as I begin, I also want to thank the Community Affairs Department for the City of Mobile. They reached out last week in regards to me signing up, and I really appreciate that. So kudos to, excuse me, Director Brown, Manager Walker, and Coordinator Ivory. Reggie Hill, 1007 Center Street. Greetings to the citizens and stakeholders of Mobile. I rise today to address the Civic Center, annexation, and public safety. Let's begin with the Civic Center. Oh, as well, I want to thank Mr. Jones for asking about the inventory list this morning. I really appreciate that also. Let's begin with the Civic Center, please. Based on today's pre-meeting, there seems to be a good deal of confusion before us regarding the Mobile Civic Center. And before explaining, I want to be very clear, while certain leaders of specific neighborhood organizations have been privy to this proposed process, too many of the citizens directly impacted have been left out. Earlier, Mr. Carroll stated that he had only seen one version of this Corps of Engineers contract, while Director DeLapp insisted and corrected that no one has seen this portion of the contract and no one can see it. So ultimately, this means that the city will lease a portion of arguably our most valuable piece of real estate and then have no idea what the leasee is going to do on the site. Wow. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong. And why are we moving $1 million from the surplus to cover the Corps of Engineers development with no true access to their intentions? Honestly, I believe we should go back to the drawing board with this. Since the Mobile Convention Center loses about $450,000 annually, why would we not consider repurposing that area for waterfront amenities, similar to Savannah and New Orleans, and then use those resources to sustain the Mobile Civic Center? Because our current plan, it just reeks disaster. And all those things that were happening over there, they once took place at the Mobile Civic Center. Let's get to annexation. There are a backlog of needs. People in areas, districts 1, 2, and 3 know this very well, whether that be in CIP or public services. A lot of the people were delayed even this morning on something as simple as pickups for their regular routines on Tuesdays. We know that. Let's look at available capital. Too often we say we don't have the money. So how is it that we're willing to extend our geographical setting? We don't have the resources to take care of what's already here. We have unoccupied and undeveloped areas in the city. There's plenty of space for you to come and move in if you really want to be a part of the city. And if we're talking about these numbers and growing, let's look at 1980. This was before multiple annexations, and we had 200,000 people living here. So we had a smaller geographical setting with far more people. What are we really doing? Now, I sympathize with Mr. Edwards because, and I didn't want to talk about this, but I've been laying off on chapter 46 and 38 about amending this, but some of these policies need to be addressed. They need to be looked at, because I know personally, and we're talking about don't resist and all these types of things. Some of us are pulled over for laws that do not exist. Some of these things that are taking place need to be observed, and that's not anything personal. Director Batiste is a good man. I truly believe that. We know we don't have enough time to finish it, so we'll come back and address these issues later. Thank you for yielding the floor.
Thank you, Ms. Hill. Madam Clerk.
Mr. President.
Mr. Carroll.
I was addressed personally in those remarks. And let me say this, I am not confused at all on what's happening on the Civic Center site. I am, well, if we are, or you possibly, then the lease agreement and the development agreement and everything that is part of that lease and structure is provided with the information that the agenda has. I'm sure that there are some people who are very intelligent and very knowledgeable who can discern that information, could kindly read it and understand it, because it is available for everyone. Now, I understand that may have been some problems with the agenda online, and it may not have been acceptable or being able to be linked down, but that information is there. This morning, my concern is that I'm not used to seeing the lease agreement and the development agreement in the same piece of paper or the same document. But the legal attorney that put this agreement together put both the development agreement and the lease agreement together, which is perfectly acceptable. If you notice this morning, I had a conversation with him in the back of the room to make sure that everything was in order and clear and transparent so that everybody could see it and understand it. So I'm perfectly fine right now with the way things are proceeding there. I'm also very aware that if anyone that wanted to ask about what was happening on that site could pick up the phone and call or come down here and walk into my office or ask anyone else, because I'm sure that everyone else that has asked has asked. And that's from people way out, and even out by Cody Road at the fairgrounds have asked about what's happening at the Civic Center site. So I'm an open book, and I'm pretty sure anybody else that's been involved with that, they're also an open book. So in essence, to people not being involved or being a part of those meetings or having the knowledge to be there, it's there if you would like it. And I'm saying that to everyone in the city of Mobile. If you'd like to know, just pick up the phone and personally give me a call. Thank you, Mr. President.
Madam Clerk.
Resolutions held over. 08064, approve purchase order to Coblitz Equipment and Parts for Moores and Public Services Public Services Department. 08065, approve purchase order to Sunbelt Fire for 100 sets of leather fire boots. 09066, transfer funds from general fund to capital improvement fund, capital project Civic Center new parking facility. 21067, authorized contract with Whittier Surveying for surveying services at the new police department mounted unit. 21068, authorized contract with Overstreet and Associates for engineering design services for pedestrian improvements on Water Street at Beauregard Street. 21069, authorized contract with Kimley Horn Associates for park entrance and amphitheater improvements at Mellabona Park. 21070, authorized appropriation contract with Mobile County Commission for Hillwood Project. 60072 and 073 are authorizing agreement and release of claims.
So moved.
Second.
Been properly moving second in discussion.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Mr. Jones.
Yeah, on 21069, I just want to make a comment for the record that the $221,000+ is for design and not for the total cost, so that the constituents and the folks that use that know that cost is up around $1 million for both of those projects to be complete, and that will be coming out of the District 6 CIP funds. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item passes.
35071, authorized ground lease and project agreement with FDS Mobile, Alabama.
Motion to hold over until February 7th.
Been properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Opposed.
Opposed. Let's do a roll call vote. Madam Clerk?
President Small,
No.
Vice President Gregory,
No.
Councilmember Penn,
No.
Councilmember Carroll,
No.
Councilmember Reynolds, Councilmember Daves,
No.
Councilmember Jones.
Item failed. 5-2.
Yes, 5-2.
So I move the item.
Second.
Been properly moved and second in discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Mr. Reynolds.
I was hoping we'd hold this thing over so we could figure out the outcome of the approximate 12 variances that were requested by the developer, the private developer, Stonewater Group, SD Stonewater, something to that effect. It doesn't appear that there's support to see the outcome of that. And these variances, just to make it clear, are changing the zoning that was established just shortly ago for the Civic Center property. Matter of fact, the zoning we all suggest was so nice that we had to pass it twice. And now here we are giving the opportunity to change it, and we're going to approve a 100-year lease without knowing what the changes will be. So I think it's a mistake, and unfortunately I can't support it for that reason.
Ms. Carroll.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I do believe there was a process that I was going to follow to let the Board of Zoning Adjustments hear those requests and approve those requests before we released it. With that said, I think these are so minor that there's not going to be any issues with these getting through. We do know what these variances are. We do know that there's an extremely high probability that you're going to go through that's not going to have an impact. So with that, I don't have a problem doing this. I would have liked to have seen this council delay this until we check that box before the lease, but that's all I was going to say.
Carol.
I think there's some confusion in the statements that are being made. The variances that they're asking for are architectural variances that have to do with the operation, design, and construction of the building. The variances that are being asked do not change the zoning. Zoning is a classification of use by which the property can be used. It is not a classification of use by which the building is designed or material uses. Now, within the UDC and the DDD, there are requests for certain types of material uses and also area uses. So that was the biggest thing that led us to the concepts that we use from the DDD to lay out the area of the Civic Center. What they're simply asking for is a variance on some of the simple things of material use and drive use, and the biggest thing is the setback area, which is required for force impact by the Corps of Engineers. The main entry, again, that's a design issue of where it comes out and whether or not it affects the street. The widening of the back drive is for a tractor-trailer truck to be able to back up to the docking levers. So these are things that are commercial use for commercial construction. A lot of the DDD codes simply affect residential use more so than they affect commercial use. So these simple requests, I don't think are egregious to the area, but may benefit the building that is being used. I'd ask that the council move forward with the, let me say it this way, the development plan and both the ground lease, because in that ground lease, you see both the development agreement and you see the ground lease. And I ask that we move forward with this item today so that we can keep this process going and get on down the road with it.
Mr. President?
Mr. Gregory.
I support moving forward today with this, as Mr. Carroll has said, as well as Councilman Jones. The variances are minor. There are 11 of them, so there are a number. And still, they are minor things that the Board of Adjustment should not have difficulty in passing. Just like you've heard, one is a setback, primary entrance, driveway width, those types of things, as well as the architectural side of what the buildings look like. I think by us moving forward today and passing this, it also provides incentive for the Board of Adjustment to move forward and pass these variances. But I do have a question for the administration, Chief Barber, Colonel DeLapp. There are clawbacks within the lease or within the agreement. So explain what the clawbacks are, and then also what happens if they don't proceed or if these variances are not adhered to, or if we don't they don't pass the variances.
The clawback provision, I believe, is, my understanding is within 12 months. If there's not substantial construction on the site, that the city has the ability of getting out of that lease. And so if they are unable to get the variances they need that would prevent them to construct this facility, then that would be where that clawback agreement would come in play.
So basically, if these variances are not approved, they can't do the work that they intend to do, and then the city would get the land back? Is that what you're saying?
Correct. And, I think as Mr. Carroll pointed out, that a lot of what they're doing is more aesthetic or site construction. So if it was to prohibit the construction of the facility, the clawback would come into play.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
Abstain.
Pass. Item pass. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance is being introduced, 64004 through 64005.
Per council rules, these ordinances will lay over for 1 week.
Consent resolutions being introduced, 03074 through 60095.
Move to waive the rules for immediate consideration of these resolutions.
Second.
And probably moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Rules are waived.
03074 through 03075. Appoint Jay Weber to the Water and Sewer Board of Commissioners and reappoint Ellis Foster and Patrick Murphy to the Industrial Development Board. 40076, 077, 078, 079, 081 are declaring the structures at 2658 Reeve Street, 1071 Arlington Street, 2011 Height Street, 1521 Clover Street, 7127 13th Street. Public nuisances and ordering them demolished. 60082 and 095 are determined appropriations to serving our unique people and special needs athletes program, Inc. Serve a public purpose and approving payment.
So moved.
We're probably moving second in discussion.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Mr. Gregory.
On 40-081, the 13th Street structure, this is a perfect example of a blighted property and structure that needs to come down. It is falling apart, boarded up where it can be boarded up. Plants are growing inside the wood areas. There is trash all around this property. So not only do we need to tear it down, but the property itself needs to be cleaned up, and I hope that our folks will take that in consideration when they do take this structure down.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Resolution passes.
40080, declare the structure at 3201 Lees Lane a public nuisance and order it demolished.
Move to hold over 60 days.
Second.
And properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'm laid over 60 days.
Resolutions being introduced, 08083 through 21094.
Move to waive the rules on Resolution 08-092 for immediate consideration, with the rest of these resolutions being laid over for 1 week.
Properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Madam Clerk.
08092, approve purchase order to Chris Francis Tree Care for tree pruning on Mardi Gras parade routes.
So moved.
They're properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I don't pass.
Announcements.
District 6, Councilman Jones. District 2, Councilman Carroll.
Yes, Mr. President. First, again, let me say to Mobile Parks and Recreation, what a wonderful job you guys did this weekend with the STEM program at Seals Park. And let me publicly thank the University of South Alabama students and all the volunteers that came out. I consistently ask for presence from South Alabama downtown in District 2. South Alabama and their medical department showed up, showed out, wore their clothes, their colors, and everything. Thank you guys for that. And I also got to put a plug in here for my sister-in-law and her team and of nurses and everyone that helped this weekend. What a great job with the STEM program. Secondly, we finally got those potholes on Dolphin Street at McPhillips Field. I am so happy to see that, thanks to the administration. We don't have that major pitfall on Dolphin Street at McPhillips anymore. We got two. We still have a few more to do, but I'm sure that the neighbors and the constituency base over there will be very happy about that. Again, that big pothole, it's finally gone. So thank you to the administration and everyone that helped get that done.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. District 4, Councilman Reynolds.
No announcements.
District 1, Councilman Penn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today at 1 p.m. we will have our entitlement committee meeting at 1 p.m. in the conference room. Thank you.
District 5, Councilman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. The project to widen and improve South McGregor Avenue from Dolphin Street down to Airport Boulevard will commence at some time in the fairly near future. The project will proceed in 3 phases. The first phase is from the bridge at the bottom of the hill uphill to just south of the intersection between Dolphin and McGregor. That will be the first section, the first phase. The second phase will be the part from the bridge over to Airport Boulevard, and then the last phase will be the intersection of Dolphin and McGregor itself. This first phase, as I've indicated, will begin sometime in the next near future. In conjunction with that work, Mobile Gas will be installing, digging up and reinstalling one of its main transmission lines through that corridor. So that section of the road is going to be closed for a year or two. Each phase of the project will require a slightly different traffic management plan because it's going to affect different people. We will have a meeting on Tuesday, February 7th at 6 o'clock p.m. at E.R. Dixon Elementary School, which is the corner of University Boulevard and Benton Spur Road. This meeting is primarily for the people who live in the neighborhoods that will be affected by the Phase 1 construction, which is Landfair, Yester Oaks, Wimbledon Park, and Country Club Estates. It's a public meeting, anyone can come, but it's primarily to discuss the traffic management plan during the Phase 1 part, which again does not involve the closing of Dolphin Street and McGregor and does not involve anything south of the bridge towards Airport Boulevard. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Day. Councilman Vice President Gregory, District 7.
Just to piggyback a little bit what Councilman Daves was talking about with McGregor, as most everyone knows, North McGregor is also under construction right now with a big roadway improvement project. One of the major components of this project is putting in new pipes, water and sewer lines through Mobile Area Water and Sewer. So that is a major component of this, and also one of the main reasons that A, it will take some time, and B, the road closure. In the meantime, we have made, or the city has made, some improvements in the signage, working with the contractor to make it more visible. The signs that say road closed and detour, that kind of thing. We also have police presence out on Tut Hill, which has now become a very heavily traveled or more heavily traveled north-south corridor since McGregor has been closed. But police will continue to have a presence there. We're looking at the stop signs within the neighborhoods because a lot of them are just hard to see, a lot of tree limbs and that kind of thing. So we're taking a closer look at those, trying to trim some of the limbs and also put some orange flagging or something on those stop signs to help draw people's attention to those, to make sure that they understand if you were going through these little neighborhoods, there's a stop sign there, you need to stop. Police have written some tickets within the neighborhoods, and again, they will continue their presence. I just want to thank Chief Prine and his executive staff and Chief Barber and others for speaking with some of the residents last week who had some concerns. We'll be sharing the information with everyone in the area, but again, the signage, road closures, detours, they have changed. We are trying to tweak what we have been doing because it was not working. So if there are still problems, I'm happy for people to contact me so that I can pass it along, and we will continue to try to make this do the best we can in these areas where it's going to be frustrating and it's going to be a long time. The project is expected to last about a year, so we're having to try to get used to this. Also, coming up this Thursday, I'll be meeting with some residents in Mobile Terrace. Public Works officials will be coming to help explain to the residents there about trash rules, what you can put out, where you put it out, some of the rules involving trash collection in the area. And I just want to thank Jeff Dees for agreeing to come and provide the information. Of course, Keisha Brown, who is helping to coordinate everything. So look forward to meeting with those residents there to help answer any questions that they have.
Anything from the administration?
A motion to adjourn.
Properly moving second in discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?